Hello everybody, and welcome back to this next part on Axis and Allies 1914 House Rules. The next part of research and development. So in this episode we'll be talking about the developments and technologies from the second row, that is early tech, that was available in 1915, roughly 1915. So that is available in round 2 of the game, starting in round 2. So we got 5 more. We have camouflage, which optionally can be the French can automatically get on round 2. Armored troops, which is optionally for Russia. Merchant raiders, optional for Germany and Britain. And then anti-sub warfare. And finally, chemical weapons, optional for Germany to start round 2 with. So, let's just get into this. We'll start with camouflage. So the French can optionally start with it. So let's look over here. So essentially camouflage is you're able to conceal your forces using camouflage. You know how they paint their helmets and their tanks and artillery, they paint it with that camo color. Also with ships, this also applies to naval units as well. They paint it with the dazzle camouflage. And also like decoy trees, dummies, dummy heads, just this deception, ways to hide and conceal your troops. Smoke screens, all these kind of things. Paris, or the French, actually built an entirely fake Paris, like a couple miles outside of the real Paris, to trick the German bombers. When they were flying in, they'd see the fake one, see all the lights and fake trains moving around, and they'd bomb it, not knowing it was just all fake. So yeah, I think so. If the French get camouflage, because I think in 1915 they started their camouflage department, which is basically just a bunch of artists that were working together to find ways to, make camouflage and stuff. So yeah, plus the Paris thing. So yeah, the French get camouflage. Alright, sorry about the cut there. I didn't have the right dice and units. So let's say, basically camouflage. So when you're defending, you can ignore 1 hit for every 3 hits made by the enemy. So let's say the Germans are invading Picardy. They're attacking, and they got 6 infantry and 3 artillery. So that's 3 at 3. So we got 1 hit there. And then another 3 infantry at 3 that got upgraded. That's 2 more hits here. And then finally the 3 infantry at 2. No hits there. Okay. So, you ignore 1 hit for every 3 hits made by the enemy. The enemy managed to make 3 hits. So we would ignore 1 of them. So now they've only made 2 hits, because our camouflage managed to, they managed to miss 1, hit the wrong target, hit a decoy, whatever. You know how it works. So instead of losing 3 units, we'd only lose 2. And that's camouflage. That's the first part of camouflage. The second part is that when you have camouflage with land units, so that this all applies to naval and land units, but so this one applies. So the second part applies to land battles, where if you have camouflage, the enemy cannot upgrade their artillery with air superiority. So let's say if the Germans had brought in a fighter, our camouflage denies them the air superiority. Even if they have control of the skies, they can't see our units because they're camouflaged too well. So they don't get to upgrade their artillery. Even if we both had fighters and there was a combat and we lost our fighter, they still wouldn't get air superiority. So yeah, that is camouflage. So remember, that also applies to C units with the ignoring 1 hit for every 3 hits. So next up is armored troops, Russia starts with this, and this is my personal favorite technology. Now this is being able to transport and support your ground units with armored cars, motorized infantry, those early ideas, but especially armored trains, my favorite part of World War One. So Russia gets to start with them. So yeah, basically, essentially, armored troops is blitz, like in the World War II Axis and Allies. You can blitz. So just like with rail movement, it's limited to up to 8 of your land units. So they can move 2 spaces through or into enemy controlled or contested territories, but they have to stop when they encounter enemy units. So for example, over here, we got 2 guys here, and they can use armored troops to zoom and attack that spot. Let's say over here in Romania, we have all these troops. We can move them all into Serbia, take that away from the Austrians, and then move into Budapest and also attack Budapest. Or we can move into Serbia and then move into Trieste and take Trieste if we wanted. We can also use it to transport troops around. So we have some guys in Moscow, moving down to Ukraine and then Romania. So it's also a way to transport units. Or you could go from Ukraine into Galicia and take that territory. So remember, only up to 8 units, so that's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. We're good. So that's essentially armored troops, basically blitz. So basically the same rules for blitz if you're familiar with other Axis and Allies games. Alright, so let's move on to merchant raiders, number 3. So you can now arm and disguise your merchant ships as auxiliary cruisers. So essentially during the war, the British would arm their merchant ships with guns, hidden guns, they call them Q ships, to trick the submarines, the U-boats, into coming close to sink them, but then they would pull out the guns and sink the U-boats instead. And then the Germans they would take their own merchant ships that were like out in the Pacific somewhere undefended, and they would put a bunch of guns on put a bunch of guns on just like regular old merchant ships and use them to attack the Allies, So basically, merchant raiders is your transports now attack and defend at a 1 or less, and they're also going to be considered surface warships for rules. So for example, like when submarines are moving through zones, they're considered surface warships and stuff. But they still have to be taken last as casualties in any combat. You can't use them as sacrifices still. They still have to be taken last. So let's take a look at that example over here. So we got 2 transports. Now normally this would be amazing. The German subs would just come in and take them out. But nope, now they defend at 1 each. So they would be able to defend themselves against those German subs. Alternatively, you can use them in attacks as well. See up here, Germans have a cruiser and a transport, and they're gonna attack this battleship. Now normally that'd be not the best move, but with the additional help of the transport, helps their odds just a little bit more, and they could attack the battleship at 1. And that's merchant raiders. Next up is anti-submarine warfare. So now your naval forces have technology that exposes submarines. These are like depth charges, hydrophones, sonar, things like that. So basically, your surface warships are going to prevent enemy submarines from submerging in combat or moving through your sea zones undetected. So for example, over here, let's say normally these German subs could be able to go here and slip underneath those ships undetected. But with anti-submarine warfare, they would be detected and they have to enter a combat with them. Also, if these allied ships want to attack this submarine, don't know why he's flipped, sorry. Let's say they go through a round of combat, the sub still survives. Now normally they'd submerge so they can save their asses, but, excuse my language, but now they cannot. They would have to be forced to stay in combat, and they'd probably lose in that situation. And so next up is the last one, chemical weapons. So this is, yeah, just like it sounds, this is poison gas, mustard gas, you know, all the very famous chemical warfare of World War I. So basically, you get to use gas to suppress enemy infantry. So Germany starts with it. So basically, once per turn, you can choose a single attack. So let's say Germany's going to attack Poland. So they're going to choose to use poison gas for this attack during their round. So you can only choose one. So basically, so how it works is the attacker is going to roll a die before any combat starts. And then the number they roll is the amount of defending infantry that may not roll for defense for that round of combat. But they can still be taken as casualties. So, how does that work? Sorry, excuse me. So I have a special clear yellow dye that I like to use. Kind of reminds me of like mustard gas or something. So I like to use it for this purpose. So before any combat starts, Germany's going to roll a die. Ooh, that's a good one. 5. So that means out of the 6 Russian defenders, 5 of them cannot roll for defense. That's because they're incapacitated due to the gas. Either they can't see, or they're trying to get their masks on, or they're just coughing up and dying. Who knows? They're blinded, who knows? But basically they can't defend. They're incapacitated. So which means only one would be left to defend. And they managed to make a hit, but it's a lot better than all 6 of them rolling. And then, of course, the Germans would all roll like normal. And, yeah. Actually, they didn't get any hits, wow. But yeah, that's a poison gas. Yeah, pretty effective. You can only use it once. Because, yeah. You can only use it once per round. And so, yeah, that's chemical weapons. And so that's all 5 of round 2. Of row 2, I'm sorry. So yeah, we went through all of them. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe, comment what you think. Look forward to the next part where we will go over the 3rd and final row. Alright, see you next time. Bye.